Hi everyone, time for another Tech Talk podcast. So this week we've got Milan here with us down from New South Wales. So we thought we'd take a bit of time and get to know you a bit, mate, and get a bit of your history and that sort of thing there.
This is great. I'll look forward to all the questions that are going to come my way. This is, long time listener, first time attendee. It's, the nerves are playing up, but we'll have a good time.
You'll be right, mate. So no, definitely join us, find out some of Milan's, good advice. And I suppose probably a big one is, some of you may already know, but what's his favourite first cut tooling? That's always a good one with you.
I'm sure we'll dive into that one.
Milan, welcome to Victoria. HQ, WORX Plus HQ. How you going?
Good, mate. Thanks for having me. I feel like I've been called to the principal's office, to be honest, except this mic shoved in my face. But
yeah, the questions are pretty tough, I'm not going to lie. As long as you give the right answers, you should be fine.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are no right answers, mate, but it's nice to have you. So we thought we'd take the opportunity to get a bit of background on you, and we've done a few profiles on a few different people. So we thought, well, why not get a hold of yourself? Obviously, you've got a bit of history in the industry, But I won't spoil it too much, but I guess we'll start by asking, how did you get into the industry?
Well, kind of fell over and just ended up in the industry. It was an accident.
Woke up one day in the car on the way to work with Dad.
That's right. No, I guess it goes back quite a while. To paint the picture, it was Sydney, just after the Olympics. It was the construction industry was dying down. I was, just starting high school. Dad was in constructions, we were fresh migrants from overseas. So he got let off on a job, and what is he going to do? One thing led to the next. He tried courier driving, things like that. And he was like, I'll sign up for this ad. And it was basically spray on paving, like a mini franchise. So he signed up for that. He had 1 day crash course, and off he goes, sent out into the world.
Yeah, right.
And he didn't have any help during that time. And what is he going to do on the weekends? Hey, you're coming with me, you know? Right. So that was my first introduction to concrete or concrete products. But that only lasted for a short period of time. But after that, I went and did my own thing, finished school, went and studied IT after high school. I got into IT, studied for almost 4 years, and then worked in the industry for almost 7 years doing that. I got to the point where I was a bit tired sitting in a cubicle, no natural light.
Stuck behind a desk, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. No natural light, wasn't moving anywhere, kind of like this type of scenario. Just floodlights, and, it got a little bit monotonous for me. And I was like, what am I going to do? I'm not quite sure. I'm still in my 20s or late 20s at that stage. I was like, I'll just go work for Dad. He was struggling. He grew his business. So he went from spray on paving to doing epoxy flooring, grind and seals, things like that. So I thought, hey, here's an opportunity to help somebody who raised me and helped me, So I went out there with intention of just as a stepping stone, not thinking that I'd end up in the industry full time. So ended up in the industry, and I quite enjoyed, growing Dad's business. And from then onwards, the services expanded. So he was just doing grind and seals and epoxy. And then led into polished concrete. It was this, polished concrete. And my dad was like, we already do polished concrete. I'm like, I think you got it wrong. I don't think what we're doing is polished concrete. I think that's just simple grind and seal. Anyway, I came across this company in Melbourne. They were actually doing courses. This was maybe 2016, 2017 I signed up. Company was called WORX Plus.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So came down, and from then onwards, just everything changed.
Yeah, okay.
So that's how I kind of ended up in the industry.
So did you sort of do any polished concrete prior to the course, or did you sort of have a bit of an attempt at?
No. We did. We did. No, we definitely did polished concrete. The problem was, as you know, without proper guidance,
Yeah.
it's all trial and error. It was a slow road. There was difficulties getting the result. There was so many challenges, and it was so stressful trying to recruit people to work within the business when you didn't know or had a proper process on what you were doing. So that was a real struggle, right?
Yeah.
But no, we definitely did polished concrete after that, you know.
And I guess we've got some questions to go through, but a bit of a side question. I suppose you were then getting into the polished concrete industry or side of things up in New South Wales. That was some years ago. Can you notice a bit of a difference in New South Wales these days with, say, the amount of contractors out there doing polished concrete compared to back then?
Absolutely. Just even the time I've been with WORX Plus, you know, just over 3 years, it's grown massively. You know, from the time that I started to now, it's gone tenfold. The amount of contractors just in the area where I live has increased, but all around Sydney, there's been a really good uptake, and more you see high-end homes and things like that, which you didn't really see when I started out. It was more kind of industrial, or it might be some, you know, industrial look home in the inner suburbs of Sydney, you know, rustic looking, things like that. It wasn't really a mainstream thing up in Sydney.
Yeah, right.
A lot of grind and seals, a lot of coatings and things like that. So that's a very big market up there, or was, you know, still is. But yeah.
So that's over the space, you said 2016, so that's about 10 years.
Yeah.
What sort of percentage do you reckon it's increased? Like 10%, 20%, 50%?
No, we're talking about hundreds of percent.
Really? Yeah, really?
Like a lot. I wouldn't even attempt to have a stab at the figure, but I reckon, you know, 200, maybe 300%.
Yeah, wow.
There's actually now good education around mechanically polished concrete or polished concrete as general. And we're seeing a lot of more actually end users understand the difference between polished concrete, grind and seals, and your coatings. So I think that's a huge change. And one of the biggest changes I've seen as well, the decorative side of things from the concrete suppliers. So when I see that, I was like, all right, this is a real deal. This thing is here to stay. And from then onwards, you know, it's just up and up for the industry.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. There you go. Interesting.
Yeah.
My next question was what sort of works they did. But of course, we've already sort of been through that sort of scenario. Machinery. What sort of machinery was your dad running when you started, and how did you progress over that time frame?
Where do I start? It was very difficult at the start, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
For starters, when we were doing spray on paving, there was no grinding or anything. It was just high pressure washing. We thought this was the machine, you know, this was going to prep everything, clean all the dirt, things like that. And the technology was quite good in sense of like the binders and whatnot. But
see, I thought there would have been like a prep grind or something, but no.
No.
Okay.
No, it was a high pressure wash, and then you put this primer down. And I drive past some of these homes that we did back in, you know, mid 2000s, and they're still there, not peeling off or anything. So that was pretty cool. But during the time, because we do a lot of driveways outdoors, people have a look, oh, what are you doing? Things like that. So they go, oh, I have a garage, or I have this, has paint on it. Can you remove it? And about 20% of the time, we could remove this high pressure washer, no worries, because it wasn't adhered properly. And then I looked at how can you expand this? So we ended up getting our first ever grinder, which was a master finish. Which is this orange thing. The motor's actually on the back of the grinder where the wheels are. So this thing had no head pressure. Fairly sure we were using stones instead of diamonds as well at the time. Really going back to the Stone Age. It doesn't seem that long ago, but the technology has come a long way since. That was our first grinder. And then after that, there was some Levinas involved, still single phase, still small operation. And when I decided to join the business full time in 2016, I was like, this is not productive. It's okay. There's 2 machines, great, but I reckon we can do better. So after that, HTC was really present, or at the time in New South Wales. And they had some great on-site demos. And the rep brought out a HTC 650, and he blitzed this floor. We were on a 200 square meter project, and he blitzed quarter of the floor in like half an hour.
Yeah, right.
When what we're doing like in a day. It was just ridiculous.
Yep.
And from then onwards, I was like, all right, this is the direction we go in.
Yep.
So that's how the whole HTC thing started. But I want to tap into the PG grinders as well.
Mm-hmm.
Did take a quick look at them. It was actually a bit tricky to buy them back in the day.
Yeah, right. What's that? Just availability, or
it was just more
so like
getting support, or in a sense that there was no on-site demo at the time. You go and look at the thing in a showroom.
Yeah.
And it's a big investment jumping from a single phase machine onto something that's now you're looking at $30,000, right? So it's a big jump for the business, and we had to invest your own capital in it too at the time. So HTC came out and actually demonstrated what we were doing. So I'm like, all right, they're quite easy to push, being a 4-header machine, gentle on the body. So we went down the route of HTC, got our first 650 HDX, and from then the world changed. It was just, it was a whole new world, Mike. It was up and up from there. We were turning these jobs over so much quicker, better results. And a few years later, 800 HTC machines.
Wow.
So it grew quite rapidly. It didn't take long after that. So it was really good. So yeah, we kind of stuck to that HTC brand, and, you know, people that have listened or watched will know that, yeah, I'm a bit of a HTC fanatic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bit of a guru.
A bit of guru. No, I wouldn't call me a guru on HTC, because they were so basic, you know, there wasn't even a direction changer, just turned the thing on and drove it, you know. And for us, that was like world changing at the time. So no, it was really good. It was
probably
really
a bit of a change in vehicles and towing generators.
All that sort of stuff. Yeah, you buy this grinder, $30,000 or whatever it cost at the time. You're like, oh, we're going to take over the world. And you're like, wait, I need all this other stuff.
We've got to run it.
Yeah, that's right.
Get it around.
Yeah, but no, it was rapid expansion of knowledge and just equipment. It was highs and lows of running a business or being part of a business.
Yeah, right.
So close.
And I've written here best and worst job, I guess, some of the better jobs you remember and some of the worst jobs or harder jobs to complete. You mentioned that seeing the spray pave jobs years later and they've held up and things like that, but I guess probably more so the polishing side of things. In that start out phase, was it still a bit of hard work until you come and did the life-saving WORX Plus course of course, but is there any that sort of stand out being good or bad or?
Yeah, pick any night work job and that'll probably be the worst one.
Yeah, right.
I wasn't a fan of night work, and you know, the smallest thing go wrong and everything's shut. You can't pick up a screw that you need for a head that's fallen off or something like that, you know, so that always had challenges.
Yep.
But the most difficult job that I can remember, not in the sense of physically demanding or anything like that, it was just more not knowing what to do, what the next steps were. We're on this, would have been 40 square meters or something, very tiny job. And we were on it for like a week and a half. It was embarrassing. We were just there. Every time we'll reach a process, there's, you know, something else pops up on the floor, whether a scratch or it doesn't look right. And we just kept going. At the time, we were using this chemical, which we thought it was a hardener, was actually a hardener and a sealer at once. So you don't apply it right, it stops absorbing this water-based hardener, and we just
starts working against you.
That's right. But we had no idea. You know, it had a label on it, says, you know, densifier hardener, and we thought we were, you know, really well equipped after watching a couple of YouTube videos and looking at Google and things like that. But that was probably the most difficult and challenging job that I was involved in. But the best job, there's so many good jobs that we're so proud to go.
I know it's difficult, mate, when you've just got so many to choose from. Try and think of a couple that stand out.
Because even to this day, when I see a finished floor, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. You turn this, you know, porous dusting material into what really looks like it came out of a factory, right? It's like, wow, it's incredible, the turnaround. So for me, it was actually a commercial job for ProGrind that I did. It was one of the largest supermarket chains that we have here in Australia.
Yep.
And for me, the amount of technical things we learned on that project was amazing. The floor turned out so good as well. And that was a bonus. And the challenges of having a PT slab and trying to polish it, it was like upwards of 40 MPa, close to 50. There was Rio sticking out. There was a lot of patchwork for the tilt panels that they were putting up. It was just a lot of learning happened in the space of 6 to 8 weeks.
Yep.
So for me personally, I think that was my favorite job because of personal development.
Yep.
And it's still there today. So, if I'm ever in that area, I pop in, have a look, and it's still going okay. PT slab, probably not the best to polish, but it's a good idea to.
And best and worst jobs. Worst job, I guess the tip there is don't use a identify sealer.
Yeah, don't.
But as far as the better jobs that you did and things like that, systems, processes, tooling choice, if you had to pick, say, I don't know, two tricks of the trade or a particular tooling choice or something like that, what do you think would be near the top of the list there?
I feel like I'm being set up here. It always comes up. It's the Millsy combo as we get to know it now, right?
That's right. But, we're going to make sure it's known worldwide. So what is the Millsy combo?
Well, it's actually came from this project.
Okay, there you go.
Using forehead machines.
I did actually know that. That's why I segued into it.
Yeah, I figured, Mike, you're clever like that.
Absolutely.
It's actually a soft 30 single segment rocks and a double medium 30 grit zigzag.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that was my combo. Increased point pressure, nice and aggressive, and for then onwards, I was like, I'm sold. I'm doing the floor or that first cut so much quicker. Why wouldn't I use or try and use this combination? Mind you, changing the bonds in a lot of the projects that we were doing. Let's speed this up because, having a forehead machine, you can't change the directions to use the sharp end of the diamond or anything like that.
Yep.
How can we be the most aggressive? So that's why I love that tooling combo.
So in real terms, I guess the double zigzag comes through and goes whack. And then the single soft rocks, being that slightly softer bond's going to give you that sort of nicer scratch and that to continue on with.
That's it. You got it. Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely.
So who's been the biggest inspiration in your professional career? I guess you can go back to the earlier days or the later days or
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
I love Michael Jordan.
Yeah, right.
He's got some good quotes. He's a fighter. I love basketball too. He's an inspiration. I don't know if it's a career, but I just like the guy. He does all right.
Gives you a bit of motivation.
Yeah, that's right. I guess on the work professional kind of setting, I was fortunate enough in my IT days to work with some really clever people, which I still keep in contact with today.
Oh yeah.
So they give me really good advice, and they're always happy to help out. So having somebody who is really clever in business has been instrumental to my, I guess, career progression. And yeah, so I'd have to give a shout out to those people. I can't name them, but hello. His name is Mike. He works for WORX Plus.
There you go. Beautiful. So we were talking before about 2016 versus today. The changes in the industry in New South Wales and that sort of thing there. How do you think that's been received by the product by, say, I guess, end user? By that, I mean our customer's customer. More so probably even residential and that sort of thing. You said it was probably a bit more of a commercial type system and everything in place when you first got into the industry.
Yeah.
So how do you think that's changed with say, residential clients and things like that, and I suppose the higher end?
Yeah. For me, I noticed the shift later before I joined WORX Plus. And not to say this isn't the case still today, but initially I was always having to explain what polished concrete is and what real polished concrete is. When I didn't have to explain it as often, I was like, okay, things are starting to change. There's information out there. People are starting to question what is it that I actually want, and am I going to get that? And what is it, the process? So I found myself, so you're familiar with it. I have some people approach and say, hey, we read about the different grits, what's the difference between finishing at a 400 versus a 3000 and so on. So I knew that I did some research and there was information out there that the product was getting more known and more mainstream. So that was the biggest shift that I saw. Like I said, I'm sure guys are still out there explaining what polished concrete is versus a grind and seal, but it's come a long way since then.
Yeah. And I mean, I noticed that in other industries that I was involved in the sales side of things, that you've got an educated customer now.
Yeah.
And they'll be able to come into the conversation, I guess, 3/4 of the way through, and then it's a matter of a bit of fine tuning. And, you know, they've probably seen this product maybe in a glossy magazine, or their friend had a particular polished concrete floor or something like that. So they're pretty well educated. So it's done, the hard yards are done.
Yeah.
That would have been really, really good just to see that corner turn in the industry for sure.
Yeah, just being able to see the product for potential end users out there. You know, now, like you said, they're seeing it out there, finished product, whether it be in a shopping mall or a retail store or a flashy magazine. You never used to see it. It was all, you know, floor coverings, tiles or whatever it might be, hardwood flooring. Now you're actually seeing it everywhere. So momentum is there for the product.
And I guess I was thinking a bit more about when we're circling back to the seminar. I guess from when you did the seminar, what was some of the key takeaways? Do you remember that you sort of had back then that were sort of real game changers and that sort of thing? Do you remember a few things?
For me, we came into the seminar because Josh asked us at the time. He was presenting the seminar, and it was I think it was a day and a half seminar back then. Yeah, there was a group of 6 of us in the seminar.
And was that here in Victoria?
Yeah, it was down here in the old warehouse.
Yep.
And it was a very small group. And Josh asked us, why are you guys here? And one of the things I mentioned is I wanted to perfect the edges. So getting the edges matching to the body of the floor, and I'm sure a lot of contractors have had this issue in the past.
Today.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, how do you get the edges looking identical to the floor? So that was one of the biggest challenges. And it just comes down to tool selection and the actual process that you're using on the edges. But it was also the amount of densifier that actually is meant to go into the floor. It's not just a magical timer that was, all right, 15 minutes is up, it's been wet. Yep, that'll be enough.
Yes.
So once you understand the process of densification, it changes the game completely.
Be sure to watch our podcast on densifiers. Anyway, I think Josh and Tim just did one recently, didn't they?
That's right. That's right.
That'll be a good segue into going to watch that one for sure.
Well, it shows how important it is, right? If they did a whole podcast, it's probably going to go, that one's probably longer than this one's going to go for. So,
no, that's cool. All right. So that was a couple of key things. Time to pump up the tires a bit here, mate. So now we're talking seminars still, but now you've actually been involved in running some seminars.
I have.
And, you recently had one in New South Wales with 25 odd people. And a minute ago, you were saying 6 odd people when you did it. So let's say maybe it's catching on. So what are some of the things that you try and instill and that sort of thing when you're running a seminar, or certainly the practical side of the seminar?
Yeah. So I'll take it back a little bit. And I guess one of the things that, going back to Michael Jordan, extremely competitive and whatnot, I'm actually really competitive too. So whatever it is that I do, whether we play a sport or at work or whatever it might be, one of the things for me is like not to be the best, but be the best that I can be.
Yep.
And something that I can walk away and go, okay, I'm happy with that. So coming from not being happy to being happy, I knew what that struggle was. From being on site, struggling, not making money. And for me to have somebody to turn to was game changing. And I wanted to give that back to the people, because I know what it's like to be in the trenches, right? And the industry can be lonely at times if you got nobody to speak to, or just bail you out with a process, or whatever it might be. So to be able to give back and actually present and do the demo of what we do at WORX Plus, or what the process is for polished concrete, yeah, it's a real honor that I get to be part of it. So, yeah, thank you for everybody that comes and listens to me talk about concrete grinding and polishing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, as I say, I know you've run a couple of them down here in Victoria, and mate, when I go out and see these customers on site, you still get a mention. So there you go.
Awesome.
You must be instilling some good things in these guys, and certainly helping them get along. Absolutely. So
it's good to hear. It's good to hear.
For sure.
It's just sometimes, I ask them how you think it's going, and maybe it's my presence that I'm there. They have to be nice, but it's good to know that they tell you as well. That I
they do,
okay.
Mate. They do. Even away from the seminar and everything. Absolutely, everyone's really happy to have you along. So it's
good.
It's great for
Excellent.
sure. And again, with that seminar that you're a part of versus the ones that you're doing and sort of helping run these days. I know they're certainly longer than a day and a half now. Has there been any sort of big additions that you can attest to, or any changes in processing and processes and things like that have changed a lot, I guess, in that 10-year period?
Look, the fundamentals are still much the same.
Yep.
The densification, the grouting, hydrating the slab before putting grout down. The process is very similar. How you get to that end result has changed completely, in the sense that we can now get to that end result so much faster.
Yeah, right. So, I was going to say, everything you just mentioned there was probably more, the grinding, grouting, densification. So you reckon maybe a bit more on the polishing side has changed a little bit?
Look, I think even in the metal bond stages, the way that 30 grit diamonds cut nowadays versus back then, they were still very, very good, don't get me wrong. But the development of using rocks and diamonds, which have those serrated edges, making this really aggressive. Even the GRTs, they're just a different combination of grits that give you a better compacted pinhole or a crack. So I think from the time you step on site to the time you finish, it's really improved. So speed and tooling advancement is the biggest change. But like I said, the fundamentals of the actual seminar and the process, they're still the same. That hasn't changed. Yeah,
I know the GRT is a big one. I was saying to someone the other day about, I've been with WORX Plus about 3 or 4 years, and someone corrected me and said it's probably more like 5 now. But I think the GRTs came out in the first year that I started, and that's something that I've really followed a lot, and people tend to really, really like. In the last seminar, we were using an 830 Husqvarna machine. And we were using triple soft GRTs, and we were at walking speed 6. To think that you could go that quickly, in 2015, 2016, unheard of. Yeah, right.
It was just, for me, it was even surprising. I was like, all right, I'm using this 830 for the first time. It's a really heavy machine, and we were flying over that floor. It was something to be seen for me anyway. Yeah,
cool. And I suppose we've spoken a little bit about your history and that sort of thing there. Coming towards the end of your grinding and polishing part of your history, how did you end up at WORX Plus? How did that come about? What was the transition period there? What was that like?
It was really good.
Yep. Great.
Look, remember I mentioned before that I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I used Dad's business a bit of a stepping stone.
Yes, okay.
End of the day, that was still Dad's business, right? And at the time where the business was, it was in a really good place in a sense that there was no debts. Mum and Dad were doing well. There was no mortgage, things like that. So I was happy to then see what other options are out there, right? Because I liked the industry. I just wasn't sure if I was ready to work within it at the time. So I wanted to do more, and I was like, what can I do to really help this industry? And sure enough, WORX Plus were looking to expand into New South Wales, or they're already servicing New South Wales, but having somebody on the ground, going out to site, troubleshooting the project, whatever it might be, and helping the contractors out. I think that really was the most appealing thing, that I could go out there and help people. So I was like, all right, I like naturally problem solving, and it just seemed right at the time. So we had a bit of an interruption at the start there. We had this little thing called, I think it was called COVID or something. There was all that sort of stuff.
Is that all about?
Yeah. So, then the idea was parked for, I think it was 16 months or 17 months. And then finally we could travel again and things like that. And decided to join WORX Plus, and I've been here ever since, and forever learning. Cool. And the day I said to myself, the day I stop learning in this industry and about concrete, because it's forever changing, is the day that I've lost interest, and I should probably hang up the boots and do something else.
Yeah, fair enough. And I guess get out the crystal ball. What sort of emerging technologies and things do you are you sort of looking forward to, and that sort of thing? What do you think could be coming in the future in this sort of industry?
Oh man, where do we go here? The self-driving cars now. Imagine there was self-driving grinders and stuff. You just kind of sit there and just watch it, and it knows what to do, what not to hit, who to hit, if you don't like them on site. I think the future is technology, really.
Yeah.
From the grinder side of things, I'd say. But also the concrete's changing too. So there's going to be a lot of changes in tooling.
Yep.
There might even be changes in processes, right? We're seeing a lot of man-made sands going to the mixers. So it's a little bit uncertain. My crystal ball's a bit foggy.
No, that's all right. And it was a bit of a question without notice. So.
Yeah. No, I like it though. But I often think about, I'm driving around and, heard of self-driving cars. It'd be nice if I could just be on my laptop. The van drives itself to site and things like that. Why can't we do that with concrete grinders? And here's to dreaming, right?
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah. That's right.
Oh, then I guess I won't have to do much at the seminar.
No, that's right.
I wouldn't look and say, stay behind the machine, look at the profile, look at this.
Set and forget.
That's right. Maybe we don't hope for that to happen though. I like my job.
And what about, I guess maybe in wrapping up a little bit, but have you got, we heard your ultimate tooling selection. Have you got any others, just sort of words of advice, anyone maybe getting into the industry or someone that's still reasonably new in the industry, any sort of pointers or tips or things to look out for?
Really do your research. Really do your research. And it's very easy to fall into the trap of, I'll just get this piece of equipment or just this to just get me over the line. Then I'll go to the next step. And that might be the only path that you can take. But if you've got, see where you want to be and then work your way back. So if your desire is to do a project that's, upwards of 200 square meters, stretch it out a bit, get that 3-phase machine.
Yep.
You'll be able to do your smaller projects much quicker from the get-go. You'll get to that end goal a lot quicker. So do your research and if you can, invest in slightly larger equipment.
Yeah. Yep. No, good advice. Good advice. Well, thanks, mate. It's lovely to have you here in Victoria and down at HQ. And I really appreciate your time and coming to squeeze this one into the busy schedule you've got while you're here. So it's great.
It's always a pleasure coming down and really freeze down here. So I'm looking forward to going up north and defrosting.
It's a little fresh in Victoria today. Absolutely.
No, it's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me. And I look forward to not watching this one, but watching the others.
No, cheers, mate. It's great.
Cheers.
This show is proudly supported by WORX Plus. WORX Plus brings total solutions to all concrete grinding and polishing contractors to make it totally work for their daily operations. We hope you've enjoyed this show. Make sure to tune in each week where we're going to dive deep into all things related to concrete grinding and polishing. We're here to help you so that you can boost your outcomes on the floor.